The morning sky above Seoul turned strange colors. Purple and gold lights danced where there should have been only blue. Dr. Yoon Nari stood on the roof of her research building, watching the impossible display through her telescope. She had been studying genetics for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. "Are you seeing this?" Colonel Kim Dong-wook spoke into his radio from the military base 30 miles away. His radar screens showed objects that should not exist. Ships the size of mountains moved through the atmosphere without making any sound. They did not look like any aircraft he knew. They were smooth and curved like giant seeds made of silver light. The ships landed in empty fields around the world. They did not crash or burn the ground. They simply settled down as gently as feathers. Governments sent armies to surround them, but the soldiers found they could not get close. Some invisible force stopped them 100 meters away. Nari drove to the landing site near her city. She parked her car at the military checkpoint and walked forward. Unlike the soldiers, she felt no barrier. She kept walking until she stood right next to the enormous ship. Its surface was warm and seemed to pulse with life. A section of the hull opened without sound. A tall figure stepped out. Nari gasped. The being looked human but perfected. He stood over 7 feet tall with perfect muscles and skin that seemed to glow from within. His eyes were larger than normal human eyes and held tiny points of light like stars. When he looked at her, Nari felt his voice inside her mind before he spoke. "Dr. Yoon Nari," he said, though his lips barely moved. "I am Captain Lee Taemin. We have traveled very far to meet you." "How do you know my name?" Nari asked. Her voice shook, but she stood her ground. "Because in our time you are remembered as one of the first to understand." Taemin replied. "We are humans, Dr. Yoon. Humans from your future." More figures emerged from the ship. Each one was tall and beautiful like Taemin. A woman with flowing black hair approached them. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. "I am Dr. Park So-jin," the woman said. Her voice was musical. "I was born in the year 3847. In your calendar, that is about 1800 years from now." Nari felt dizzy. "That's impossible. Humans can't live that long," So-jin smiled. "You are correct about present-day humans, but we are not the same as you. We have evolved. Our bodies last for thousands of years. Our minds can touch each other across great distances. We can change matter with our thoughts." To prove her point, So-jin picked up a handful of dirt. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened her hand, the dirt had become a perfect flower made of crystal. The flower rang like a bell when the wind touched it. Colonel Dong-wook arrived with a team of soldiers. They stopped when they saw the evolved humans. The colonel was a brave man, but even he felt small next to these beings. "What do you want from us?" Dong-wook demanded. Taemin turned to face him. "We want to save you, Colonel. And through saving you, we hope to save ourselves." More ships landed around the world. The evolved humans asked to speak to world leaders. Within days, Taemin stood before the United Nations in New York. Representatives from every country watched as he explained why they had come. "Your species stands at a turning point," Taemin told the assembly. "In the next 50 years, events will happen that will decide the future of all humanity. If you make the right choices, your descendants will become like us. You will live among the stars and protect life throughout the universe." The President of the United States leaned forward in his chair. "And if we make the wrong choices?" Taemin's expression grew sad. "Then humanity will end. Not just death, but complete erasure. As if your species never existed at all." The room filled with worried voices. Representatives argued in dozens of languages. Finally, the Secretary General asked for silence. "How can we trust you?" she asked. "You could be invaders pretending to be humans." So-jin stood up. "May I demonstrate something?" she asked. She walked to a potted plant that was dying in the corner of the room. Its leaves were brown and its stem was bent. So-jin placed her hands near the plant without touching it. The plant began to change. Its stem straightened. Its leaves turned green and grew larger. In moments, it bloomed with flowers that filled the room with sweet scent. "This is what humans can become," So-jin said. "We can heal. We can create. We can make life where there was death." A man from Japan raised his hand. "Why don't you fix our problems now?" "If you're so powerful, end war and hunger." Taemin shook his head. "Because you must earn these abilities. Evolution cannot be given as a gift. It must be chosen. You must prove that you can handle such power without destroying yourselves or others." Nari had been given special permission to attend the meeting. She stood up to ask a question. What kind of events will decide our future? Discoveries, Taemin replied. Your scientists are close to understanding the deepest secrets of life and reality. How you use those discoveries will determine everything. He gestured to the air and images appeared as if projected from nowhere. The images showed Earth, but not as anyone had seen it before. Cities floated in the sky. Forests grew on the moon. Humans worked alongside beings from other worlds. This could be your future, Taemin said. A future where humans explore the galaxy and protect other species as they grow and learn. The images changed. Now they showed darkness spreading across space like ink in water. Stars went out one by one. Entire solar systems simply disappeared. Or this could happen, Taemin continued. An end to everything. Not just Earth, but countless worlds and the beings who live on them. The meeting lasted for hours. The evolved humans answered questions patiently. They showed more examples of their abilities. They proved they could heal injuries instantly and create food from air and water. As the day ended, Taemin made a final statement. We will stay for 1 year, he said. We will share some of our knowledge and help you prepare for what comes next. But remember, the choice of what humanity becomes must be yours. After the meeting, Nari approached Taemin in the hallway. Why did you really come back? She asked quietly. Taemin looked at her with those strange star-filled eyes. Because even we evolved humans cannot do what you can do, he said. You have something we lost when we changed. Something we need to face the darkness that is coming. Nari felt a chill run down her spine. What did we lose? The ability to dream impossible dreams, Taemin replied, and to make them real. 3 weeks after the arrival, Dr. Sojin set up her laboratory in an empty warehouse in Tokyo. The building looked normal from outside, but inside, it was filled with technology that seemed like magic. Floating screens showed information in languages that did not exist yet. Machines hummed with power that came from nowhere. Dr. Yang Jae-sung, a physicist from Tokyo University, stared at everything with wide eyes. He had been invited to learn from the evolved humans. His job was to understand their technology and explain it to other present-day scientists. This is impossible, Yang muttered as he watched Sojin work. She was examining a sample of his blood under a microscope that projected images into the air above it. Your blood carries the seeds of greatness, Sojin told him. She pointed to structures in his cells that normal microscopes could not see. Every human alive today has these dormant codes. They are waiting for the right moment to activate. Commander Choi Minho materialized in the laboratory. Yang jumped back in surprise. Minho had the ability to walk through solid walls and appear anywhere he wanted. The presentation is ready, Minho reported to Sojin. He looked like a soldier, tall and strong, but his uniform was made of material that shifted colors like oil on water. Sojin nodded and activated a large display screen. Dr. Yang, what I'm about to show you will change everything you believe about human history. The screen showed Earth as it looked millions of years ago. Primitive humans lived in caves and hunted with stone tools. Suddenly, bright lights appeared in the sky. Ships landed, different from the ones the evolved humans had arrived in. These were angular and made of dark metal. 2 million years ago, beings called the Architects came to Earth, Sojin explained. They were ancient beyond measure. They had watched the universe grow cold and empty as species after species destroyed themselves. The images showed the Architects working with early humans. The beings were tall and thin, with faces that were hard to look at directly. They seemed to be made of living shadow and light. The Architects had a theory, Sojin continued. They believed that somewhere in the universe there might be a species that could break the cycle of destruction, a species that could grow powerful enough to protect other life forms. Yang watched as the Architects changed human DNA. They added new sequences that would remain hidden for thousands of generations. They tested many species on many worlds, Minho added. Most failed the test. They became extinct or turned into conquerors who destroyed other life forms. But humans were different. Different how? Yang asked. Sojin smiled. Humans tell stories. No other species in the galaxy creates fiction the way humans do. You imagine things that do not exist and then work to make them real. This ability is more powerful than any weapon. Engineer Shin Hyewan joined them in the laboratory. She was smaller than the other evolved humans, but her eyes glowed brighter. Her hands moved constantly as she adjusted invisible controls in the air. Show him the real history, Hyewan suggested. The display changed again. Now it showed human civilization as it really developed. Every major breakthrough in science and technology happened because humans had been guided by hidden signals in their DNA. The invention of writing, mathematics, medicine, spaceflight, Sojin listed. All of these happened when they were supposed to happen. Your species has been following a path laid out long ago. Yang felt angry. So we have no free will? Everything we do was decided by aliens? No, Minho said firmly. The architects only provided the potential. How you used it was always your choice. Many human civilizations have existed on other worlds. Some became peaceful explorers. Others became warriors. A few destroyed themselves completely. HFY activated another display. This one showed the present-day Earth, but with a network of energy lines connecting every human being on the planet. Right now, all 7 billion humans are connected by quantum fields you cannot detect, HFY explained. When enough of you learn the same new idea, it becomes easier for others to learn it too. This is how evolution spreads through your species. But why tell us this now? Aang asked. The three evolved humans exchanged glances. Sojin answered carefully. Because the test period is ending. The architects place triggers in your DNA that will activate around the year 2050. If humanity passes the test, you will evolve quickly into something amazing. If you fail, what happens if we fail? Yang pressed. Minho created a hologram in the air with his hands. It showed a planet that looked like Earth but dead. No cities, no forests, no oceans, just empty rock floating in space. This was New Terra, Minho said quietly. A human colony that failed the test 300 years ago. The people there became obsessed with power and control. They created weapons that consumed everything, including themselves. Yang stared at the dead world. How many human colonies have failed? 17, Sojin replied. But 23 have succeeded. The evolved humans you see today come from all the successful colonies. We work together to help new human societies pass their tests. HFY made the displays disappear with a gesture. There is something else you must know. The test is not just about humans. You are being prepared for a responsibility that will affect the entire galaxy. What kind of responsibility? Yang asked. Sojin looked directly at him. To be the universe's immune system. There are forces in deep space that consume life and light, ancient evils that the architects themselves could not defeat. They created species like humans to fight battles that gods cannot win. Yang sat down heavily in a chair. His mind was spinning with all the information. Why are you telling me this? Why not world leaders or famous scientists? Because, Minho explained, the transformation must spread naturally. If governments try to control it, it will fail. The change must begin with individuals who choose to accept it freely. Sojin picked up a device that looked like a crystal flower. When she touched it, Yang's vision changed. He could suddenly see energy patterns around all living things. He could feel the thoughts of people in nearby buildings. This is a neural enhancer, Sojin said. It will help your brain adapt to the new information we are sharing. But wearing it is your choice. Yang looked at the device. He knew that putting it on would change him forever. He would no longer be completely human as he understood the term. What am I becoming? He asked. Something wonderful, HFY replied. The first step toward what humanity is meant to be. Yang took the device and placed it on his forehead. Immediately his consciousness expanded. He could sense the quantum connections between all humans on Earth. He could feel the dormant potential waiting to awaken in every person. But he also sensed something else, a darkness in space far away but growing closer. Something that hated light and life and everything that existed. Now you understand why we came back, Sojin said softly. The real test is coming, and we need present-day humans to help us face it. Yang nodded, though he felt overwhelmed by everything he now knew. What do we need to do? Minho placed a hand on Yang's shoulder. First, we prepare your world. Then we teach your people to dream of victory against impossible odds. And if we succeed? Yang asked. Sojin smiled, and for the first time Yang could see hope in her ancient eyes. Then humans will become the guardians of all life in the universe, and the darkness that comes will find us ready. Director Lim Gaon stood before the United Nations Emergency Assembly. Behind her, screens showed the progress of the Global Transformation Program. Green dots marked cities where humans had successfully integrated with evolved technology. Yellow dots showed areas where the process was struggling. Red dots marked places where people had rejected the changes entirely. The awakening has begun in 47 countries, Gaon reported. Over 200 million humans now carry active neural enhancers. The results are beyond our most optimistic predictions. In the audience, representatives from world governments watched footage from around the globe. In Mumbai, a 12-year-old girl was healing cancer patients by laying her hands on them. In São Paulo, construction workers were building impossible structures using nothing but their thoughts to shape metal and stone. In Stockholm, a team of artists had created a sculpture that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Captain Song Mi-young sat in the front row, her uniform marked with new insignia that showed her rank in the combined human fleet. 3 months earlier, she had been a normal fighter pilot. Now neural implants behind her ears glowed with soft blue light, and her eyes showed depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The integration process is not without risks, Dr. Ryu Huan warned from his seat on the medical advisory panel. We have documented over 3,000 cases of severe psychological rejection. Some subjects have experienced complete personality breakdown when their minds try to process evolved human knowledge. Technician Oh Seung-ho activated a holographic display that showed the structure of an enhanced human brain. New neural pathways blazed with activity in areas that had been dormant for millennia. The human mind is adapting faster than we expected, Seung-ho explained. Present-day humans have a flexibility that we evolved humans lost. Your brains can rewire themselves in ways that should take generations. Not everyone was celebrating the changes. In several countries, religious groups had declared the evolved humans to be demons in disguise. The Pope had issued a statement calling for careful study of the theological implications. Some Islamic scholars argued that the transformations were a test from Allah. Buddhist monks seemed more accepting, saying the changes were part of the natural cycle of growth and enlightenment. The real problem was the governments. Many world leaders feared losing control over their populations. How could you govern people? Who could read minds and manipulate matter with their thoughts? President Chen Wei of China had banned the neural enhancers in his territory. We will not allow foreign beings to alter the minds of our citizens, he had declared. Similar bans had been issued by several other nations, but the changes were spreading anyway. Enhanced humans could pass their abilities to others through something the evolved humans called quantum resonance. When enough people in an area developed new abilities, everyone around them began to change as well. Mi-young stood up to address the assembly. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that touched the minds of everyone listening. I volunteered to be the first test subject for full integration, she announced. I want to share with you what I have experienced. The room fell silent as Mi-young activated her neural implants. A hologram appeared above her head, showing her memories from the past month. The audience watched as Mi-young learned to pilot spacecraft using pure thought. They saw her flying through asteroid fields at speeds that would kill a normal human. Her consciousness merged with the ship's computer systems. They witnessed her talking with evolved humans in languages that had not yet been invented. The fear you feel is understandable, Mi-young continued. I was terrified when I first put on the neural enhancer. I thought I would stop being human, but I was wrong. I became more human than I had ever been before. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show her visiting her elderly parents in Busan. Despite all her new abilities, she still cried when her mother hugged her. She still laughed at her father's terrible jokes. The technology does not replace what makes us human, Mi-young explained. It amplifies it. I feel emotions more deeply now. I understand beauty in ways I never could before. I can sense the connections between all living things. Dr. Ryu Huan raised his hand. What about the reports of people losing their individual personalities? Some subjects claim they can no longer tell where their thoughts end and others begin. Mi-young nodded seriously. That is a real risk for some people. The neural enhancers create connections between minds, but losing yourself is not inevitable. It requires practice to maintain your individual identity while being connected to others. Director Gaon activated another display. This one showed the location of the first Void Devourer scout probes, which had been detected in the outer solar system the previous week. We no longer have the luxury of debating whether to accept these changes, Gaon announced. The enemy has arrived. 3 asteroid mining stations have already been completely erased from existence. The representatives stirred uneasily. Everyone had seen the reports. The mining stations had not been destroyed. They had simply stopped existing. No wreckage, no radiation, no evidence they had ever been there. Only the enhanced humans could even remember that the stations had existed at all. Xung-Ho projected images from the edge of the solar system. The Void Devourer's scouts appeared, as regions of absolute darkness that grew larger as they consumed space itself. Normal cameras could not see them directly, but enhanced human sensors could detect the holes they left in reality. Each scout probe represents a tiny fragment of the main entity, Xung-Ho explained. When the full Void Devourer arrives, it will be billions of times more powerful than these scouts. Mi-young stepped forward again. I have seen the evolved humans' projections of what will happen if we are not prepared. Earth will be erased so completely that the sun will forget it ever had a third planet. The Chinese representative stood up angrily. You are using fear to manipulate us into accepting these changes. How do we know your evolved humans are not the real threat? Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the building. Emergency broadcasts interrupted television and radio around the world. Another scout probe had appeared, this one much closer to Earth. The International Space Station simply vanished. One moment it was there, with 6 astronauts aboard. The next moment, there was empty space. No debris, no distress signals, no evidence it had ever existed. But the enhanced humans around the world felt something else. They sensed the moment when 6 human minds were erased from existence. The pain of that loss rippled through everyone with neural implants. Mi-young gasped and staggered. Tears ran down her face as she felt the echo of the astronauts' final moments. They were still thinking when they were erased, she whispered. They had no time to be afraid, they just stopped. The assembly hall fell completely silent. The reality of the threat was now undeniable. Director Gaon spoke into the quiet. The transformation protocol is no longer optional. We have perhaps 3 months before the main entity arrives. Every human being on Earth must be given the choice to evolve or to face extinction. Over the following weeks, the changes accelerated dramatically. Neural enhancer production facilities were built on every continent. Evolved humans worked around the clock to train present-day humans in the use of their new abilities. Not everyone survived the process. Some minds were too rigid to adapt. Others were overwhelmed by the sudden expansion of their consciousness. But millions of people successfully integrated the technology and began developing abilities that defied traditional physics. Artists learned to paint with light itself, creating works that existed in multiple dimensions. Musicians composed symphonies that could heal emotional trauma. Engineers built machines that ran on crystallized hope and powered inspiration. But the most important change was happening in children. Young minds adapted to the enhancements almost effortlessly. A generation of human children was growing up with the ability to think in ways that even evolved humans found difficult to understand. These children would become the key to humanity's survival. Their minds, unburdened by preconceptions about what was possible, would dream the impossible dreams needed to defeat entropy itself. As the month ended, Captain Mi-young prepared to join the fleet that would make humanity's final stand. She looked out at Earth from the orbital platform where the combined human forces were gathering. The planet glowed with new kinds of light, as enhanced humans worked together in ways that had never been attempted before. Cities pulsed with energy networks that connected every enhanced mind. Oceans shimmered with patterns that were actually thoughts made visible. Humanity was becoming something unprecedented in the galaxy's history, a species that maintained its individual creativity while sharing collective knowledge and power. Soon they would discover if that was enough to save not just themselves but the entire universe. The Void Devourer arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. It appeared at the edge of the solar system as a sphere of absolute nothingness that was larger than Jupiter. As it moved inward, planets simply ceased to exist. Neptune vanished first, followed by Uranus. Not destroyed, but erased so completely that the sun's gravitational field adjusted as if those worlds had never formed. Admiral Taman commanded the combined human fleet from the bridge of a ship that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Around him, evolved humans and enhanced present-day humans worked at stations that controlled weapons built from crystallized imagination and powered by concentrated hope. Distance to target? Taman asked. 12 million kilometers in closing, reported Navigation Officer Park Hae-jin, a former taxi driver from Seoul whose enhanced mind could now calculate orbital mechanics in 17 dimensions. The entity is consuming approximately 100,000 cubic kilometers of space per second. Commander Mi-young floated beside Tae-min in her pilot's harness. Her consciousness merged with every ship in the fleet. Through her neural link, she could feel the thoughts and emotions of 10 million humans preparing for a battle, unlike any in history. Status of the narrative weapons? Tae-min inquired. Dr. So-jin looked up from her station. The story cores are fully charged. We have integrated the dreams and myths of every human culture into weapons that exist in 43 different realities simultaneously. The narrative weapons were humanity's strangest creation. They were missiles built from crystallized fairy tales, powered by the belief that good must triumph over evil. Each weapon contained the essence of every story ever told about heroes facing impossible odds and somehow finding a way to win. What about the collective? Mi-young asked. At that moment, the volunteers who had formed the collective spoke in perfect unison from stations throughout the ship. Their voices came from people of every age and nationality, but they spoke as one being. We are ready, they announced, 100,000 minds thinking as one, yet preserving the chaos of individual creativity. We are what humanity becomes when it chooses unity without surrendering uniqueness. The collective was the most radical experiment in human evolution. Volunteers had merged their consciousness into a group mind that could process information at quantum speeds while maintaining the unpredictable creativity that made humans dangerous to beings like the Void Devourer. Saturn disappeared as the entity continued its approach. The gas giant's rings sparkled for a moment, then faded from existence along with all its moons. The Void Devourer left behind empty space that had never known the beauty of celestial bodies dancing in orbital harmony. Fleet, prepare to engage, Tae-min commanded. 1,000 ships moved into position. Some were traditional spacecraft built by evolved humans, sleek vessels that could travel between stars. Others defied every law of physics. Ships shaped like enormous flowers, vessels that looked like crystallized music, craft built from solid light and architectural dreams. The first wave of attacks began. Evolved human ships fired weapons that could shatter moons. Present-day human vessels launched missiles powered by punk rock and teenage rebellion. The attacks struck the Void Devourer and simply vanished, consumed by the entity's hunger for entropy. Conventional weapons are useless as expected, reported Dr. Bae Yeon-seo from the science station. The entity exists primarily in dimensions where destruction equals nourishment. Begin Phase 2, Tae-min ordered. The narrative weapons launched. They did not look like missiles or energy beams. They appeared as streams of pure story, heroes riding to save the day, lovers reunited against all odds, children discovering they had the power to change the world. Each weapon carried the emotional weight of humanity's greatest tales. The weapons struck the Void Devourer, and something unprecedented happened. For the first time in cosmic history, the entity hesitated. Stories were chaotic in ways that pure entropy could not easily process. They contained contradictions, impossible events, and outcomes that defied logical prediction. But the effect was temporary. After a moment of confusion, the Void Devourer adapted and began consuming the stories as well, growing stronger with each tale it devoured. The entity is learning, So-jin reported with alarm. It's analyzing the structure of our narratives and finding ways to feed on them. Jupiter vanished, taking its magnificent system of moons with it. The loss rippled through the collective, causing several members to cry out in shared anguish. Phase 3, Mi-young announced. It's time for the impossible plan. She disengaged from the fleet command systems and climbed into the cockpit of humanity's ultimate weapon, a ship built from the dreams of every human child who had ever looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. The ship looked like it had been designed by a committee of 8-year-olds with unlimited imagination. It had wings like a butterfly, engines that burned rainbow fire, and a hull decorated with every symbol of hope humanity had ever created. It should not have been able to fly, let alone fight cosmic entities, but it moved with grace that defied physics. Mi-young, what are you doing? Tae-min demanded over the communication link. Something that makes no sense, Mi-young replied. That's the only way to surprise an entity that feeds on logical outcomes. She flew directly toward the Void Devourer, not to attack it but to enter it. The ship passed through the entity's outer boundary and into a realm where nothing should be able to exist. Inside the Void Devourer, Mi-young found herself surrounded by the ghosts of everything the entity had consumed. Entire civilizations existed as fading memories, their stories partially digested but not completely erased. "I can see them," Mi-young broadcast to the fleet. "All the peoples and worlds it has consumed. They're still here, trapped in a state between existence and non-existence." The collective focused their combined will through Mi-young's ship. 100,000 human minds began telling a new story. Not about destroying the Void Devourer, but about transforming it into something that created instead of consuming. Once upon a time, the collective began, their voices echoing through dimensions. There was a being of infinite hunger that learned to feast on beauty instead of emptiness. The story took shape around Mi-young as she flew deeper into the entity's core. She passed through memories of civilizations that had created wonders beyond imagination, cities that sang with the voices of their inhabitants, gardens that grew thoughts instead of flowers, libraries that contained the dreams of entire species. The hungry being discovered that creation was more nourishing than destruction. The collective continued. It learned that building something new brought greater satisfaction than consuming something old. At the heart of the Void Devourer, Mi-young found the source of its hunger, a wound in reality itself, a place where the universe had been damaged during its earliest moments. The entity was not truly evil, she realized. It was trying to heal itself by returning everything to the primordial emptiness it remembered as peace. "You're in pain," Mi-young said to the entity. "You've been in pain for billions of years, and consuming things is the only way you know to make it stop." The Void Devourer paused its advance toward Earth. For the first time since its creation, something was talking to it instead of trying to fight it. "But there's another way," Mi-young continued. "Instead of erasing stories, you could become part of them. Instead of ending creation, you could help it grow." The collective poured their combined will through Mi-young's words, weaving a story so compelling that even an entity of pure entropy began to believe it might be true. "Imagine," they said, "if instead of consuming the universe, you helped it tell better stories. Imagine if your power was used to heal the wounds between dimensions, to create bridges between different forms of existence." The entity's hunger began to change. Instead of consuming the ghost civilizations trapped within it, the Void Devourer started to remember their stories. It recalled the beauty they had created, the love they had shared, the dreams they had pursued. "I could be different?" the entity asked, its voice like the sound of stars being born. "You could be the Dreamweaver," Mi-young replied. "The one who takes nightmares and transforms them into hopes. The gardener who plants stories in empty space and watches them grow into new realities." The transformation began slowly, then accelerated as the entity embraced its new identity. The sphere of nothingness started to glow with soft light. The ghost civilizations trapped within began to solidify, their stories gaining strength as the Dreamweaver fed them energy instead of consuming it. Jupiter reappeared, followed by Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But they were not quite the same as before. Now they pulsed with new kinds of life, seeded with possibilities that had been imagined by the rescued civilizations. Mi-young flew out of the transformed entity as it settled into orbit around the sun, like a new planet made of crystallized dreams. From its surface, the rescued civilizations began broadcasting greetings to Earth in languages of music, mathematics, and pure emotion. "Mission accomplished," Mi-young reported to the fleet. "The Void Devourer is now the Dreamweaver. It will travel the galaxy, finding places where reality is broken and healing them with stories." Admiral Taemin felt a sensation he had almost forgotten after centuries of war. Pure joy. Admiral Han Subin stood in the command center of the largest evolved human ship. The chamber was enormous, with walls that showed the star patterns of the galaxy. Red dots marked locations where terrible things had happened. There were too many red dots. Dr. Bai Yonseo floated beside her in a chair that defied gravity. Yonseo was a quantum physicist from present-day Earth who had been chosen to learn the truth about the cosmic threat. Her mind had been enhanced with evolved human technology, allowing her to understand concepts that normal humans could not grasp. "Show her the records," Subin commanded. Specialist Kang Wu-jin manipulated controls that existed in multiple dimensions. The walls around them changed to display images from across time and space. Yeonseo gasped as she saw civilizations that had existed millions of years ago. These are the builders of the Andromeda Galaxy, Wu-jin explained. The images showed beings of pure energy who had created wonders beyond imagination. They built structures the size of solar systems and turned entire regions of space into gardens of light. What happened to them? Yeonseo asked, though she suspected she already knew. The images changed to show the same region of space, but now it was completely empty. Not destroyed, but absent, as if it had never existed at all. The Void Devourer came, Subin said simply. It does not kill civilizations. It erases them. When something is consumed by the void, it never was. No records remain. No memories survive. Only we evolved humans remember these lost peoples, and only because we exist partially outside normal time. Wu-jin continued the terrible history lesson. He showed her the Crystal Confederation, a group of silicon-based life forms who had achieved perfect harmony with their environment. Gone. The singing cities of the Vega system, where music had been turned into a form of physics that could reshape reality. Erased. Dozens of other civilizations, each unique and beautiful, all reduced to absolute nothing. How is that possible? Yeonseo asked. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The Void Devourer exists outside the normal laws of physics, Subin explained. It is entropy given consciousness and purpose. Its goal is to return the universe to the state it was in before anything existed. Perfect emptiness. Perfect silence. Admiral Subin had fought the Void Devourer for over 1,000 years. Her body showed the scars of battles in dimensions where normal matter could not survive. One of her arms was mechanical, made of materials that existed in 17 different realities at once. In our original timeline, we detected the Void Devourer when it was still 3 galaxies away, Subin told Yeonseo. We had 200 years to prepare. We built fleets of ships powered by captured stars. We created weapons that could destroy planets with a single shot. We united every evolved human colony into the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Did you win? Yeonseo asked, though the sadness in Subin's eyes already gave her the answer. We delayed it, Subin replied. The war lasted 50 years. We destroyed its physical manifestations again and again, but it always returned. Worse, every victory cost us something precious. To fight a being of pure entropy, we had to become more orderly, more predictable. We lost our creativity, our ability to surprise ourselves. Wu-jin showed her the final battle of that timeline. Evolved humans in armor that blazed with captured starlight fought against creatures that were shaped like holes in reality. Every weapon the humans fired followed perfect mathematical formulas. Every strategy was calculated to be optimal. They fought with machine-like precision. We became too perfect, Subin continued. Perfect beings cannot create true surprises. And surprise is the only thing the Void Devourer cannot predict or counter. The battle scenes showed the moment when the Void Devourer learned to predict every move the evolved humans would make. Their perfect weapons were turned against them. Their flawless strategies became traps. We won that war, Subin said bitterly. But at the cost of 60% of the galaxy. Billions of civilizations were erased to give us the power needed to defeat entropy itself. Yeonseo felt sick as she watched entire star systems wink out of existence. Why are you showing me this? Because we found a better way, Wu-jin answered. After the war, our greatest scientists discovered something incredible. The universe keeps records of everything that ever existed, even things that have been erased by the void. These records are stored in the quantum foam that underlies reality itself. Subin activated another display. This one showed the structure of space-time at its smallest level. Among the dancing particles of virtual matter, Yeonseo could see patterns that looked almost like writing. The universe is telling itself a story, Subin explained. Every star that forms, every planet that develops life, every civilization that learns to love and create, all of it adds to the cosmic narrative. The Void Devourer feeds on entropy, but stories are the opposite of entropy. They create meaning from chaos. That's why you came back to our time, Yeonseo realized. Present-day humans are better at storytelling. Exactly, Wu-jin confirmed. Evolved humans can manipulate matter and energy, but we think too logically. We have lost the ability to believe in impossible things. Present-day humans still dream of magic. You still think that happy endings are possible even when everything looks hopeless. Subin gestured to the star map around them. We need to combine your chaotic creativity with our advanced knowledge. Together we can build weapons that the Void Devourer cannot understand or predict. What kind of weapons? Hyunseo asked. Narrative weapons, Subin replied. Stories that become real. Dreams that reshape the laws of physics. Hopes that burn brighter than stars. Wu Jin showed her the plan they had developed. It involved connecting every human mind on Earth into a network that could think in ways no individual could manage. Present-day humans would provide the wild ideas, while evolved humans would provide the power to make those ideas real. The Void Devourer will arrive at the edge of your solar system in 6 months, Subin announced. We have that long to prepare Earth and its people for a kind of war that has never been fought before. Yonseo studied the tactical displays. Even with her enhanced mind, the scope of the threat was hard to grasp. What makes you think this plan will work when your first attempt failed? Subin smiled for the first time since Yonseo had met her. Because this time we are not fighting to destroy the Void Devourer. We are fighting to transform it. Transform it into what? Something that creates instead of consuming, Wu Jin answered. Something that tells stories instead of ending them. Subin brought up one final display. It showed Earth surrounded by a network of light that connected every human being. The network pulsed with colors that had no names, fed by the dreams and hopes of billions of people. Your species has a power that even the architects did not fully understand, Subin told her. You can take something terrible and find the good in it. You can look at an ending and imagine a new beginning. Yonseo felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What do you need me to do? Help us teach your people what they are capable of, Subin replied. Show them that the stories they tell have the power to reshape reality itself. And if we fail? Subin looked out at the stars, many of which would soon be threatened by the approaching darkness. Then everything ends, she said simply. Not just humanity, but every story that was ever told and every story that might have been told. The universe becomes a place where nothing interesting ever happened. Yonseo took a deep breath and accepted her role in the coming battle. Then we had better not fail, she said. Subin nodded approvingly. Now you are beginning to think like a cosmic guardian.